2012 is lining up to be an extremely important year. One of the big reasons why is because it's finally time for Time by UNSUNG. What about Jari's former band? What about Ensiferum? They have a new album coming out on August the 27th, which is just a couple short days from today. It's entitled Unsung Heroes, and it's time for us to talk about it. Now, ever since his departure in order to form UNSUNG, while he has released one album that has quickly escalated into the lures of immortality, the band has definitely undergone a bit of a frame shift. It's a little minute, however, it is in the fact that their storytelling has become extremely, a lot more lengthy, and there has been a lot more detail placed, almost as though this is a detail contest between the two bands to see which band could kind of upheave the other. I'm going to mention why here in just a moment, but let me get through this history first. In the time that it's taken Jari to complete, well, Time, saying Time a lot in this review, you can already tell, Ensiferum has been releasing albums on a rather consistent level, and Unsung Heroes here in 2012 is the most recent. Now, the one thing about a folk band like Ensiferum that even feels a little bit more power metal-y at some points, the one thing about them is that in some cases you may approach their album thinking, well, okay, I kind of know what to expect. It's going to be kind of business as usual. You know, kind of like whenever we were talking about the coverkillernation release from about a month or so ago. You kind of know going in what to expect, but at the same time, even though it is something that fulfills your expectations, you still have that ability to really either be shocked and pleased with it, or disappointed simply because, well, even though you know what you're expecting, there's always room for them to do something that is different to kind of get them in touch with a new element to their music. Well, the theme of this album is certainly go big or go home, and one could arguably admit it's because of all of the information that's been leaked about the UNSUNG release and the multitude of tracks that it really has required in order for its completion. This is definitely an album where they're going big or going home. And it's not just in the fact that these are very, very layered songs that definitely derive from that folk metal heritage that they've possessed ever since their inception, but also twinging in a little bit of that power metal, a little bit of that melodic metal that they've always kind of had present into their sound. And it's just in the fact that there's an epic feel to this. This is one of those albums that whenever you listen to it, regardless of your opinion of it, when the album is through, the one word that comes to your lips is, damn, that sounds epic. It has that feel. It has that cinematic landscape to it, where the soundscape that you're hearing really makes you think of a scene. You may not necessarily know what's going on in the scene. Your brain might not be the, accurate description that they're attempting to convey musically, but that doesn't matter because it's what you're thinking, it's what you're feeling, it's the emotions that you get from this music. Now, throughout the body and the beginning of this album, you do get that feeling of business as usual from this band. You have your combinations of those aggressive, pulse-pounding tracks that really get you going, within also the softer, ballady, more, I suppose you would call traditional tracks that really restore the balance on this album, that really keeps it on an even keel. Instead of one side really overpowering the other, it instead is a nice harmonic duality, something that makes this album a nice flow to enjoy, mainly because you're not sure what the next track is really going to involve. You're thinking that it's going to be one thing, but then they kind of throw you for a curveball and sing something very traditional, very beautiful, very lovely. That's the one aspect about folk metal that really sets it apart. Now, a lot of albums are really able to pull off this harmonious dynamic. However, with folk metal, that tradition, that pride, that, history and lineage that you kind of can conjure up whenever you're listening to this stuff, that really makes this unique. I mean, if you heard a bunch of patriotic songs in America sung by a band like Slayer, it would just sound really out of touch and weird. But whenever you hear it in folk metal, it makes sense. Not to mention, it really just gives you that proud feeling to be a metal fan. To know that there's a heritage out there that really is celebrating this stuff, even though the original origins of the music that's involved sounded a whole lot different. Of course, the big-time body of this album is the very final track. A 17-minute-long epic. And whenever I say go big or go home, they definitely went big on this track. And it's not just because of the song length. It's certainly because of everything that's involved here. This is a multiple layered track. If you thought that Huto from Moon Sorrow last year was something that was going to be rich with dynamisy and rich with layers due to its length, then you have not seen anything yet. This is one of those conceptual stories of songs where they went for everything. There are rich soprano vocals, there are traditional instruments, there are, instruments that are particular to the region. Their outside help even includes another band, Die Apocalyptischen Reiter. 3 of the members of that band provide additional voices on this record. There are moments where you can hear a conversation perhaps prior to a battle or just a casual conversation in discussing the modes of the day, of the time frame, of the time period that you're being transformed into, that you're being transferred to, that you're the world that you're really having spun around you. There is a real excitement whenever you listen to this track. It's not something that is going to bore you to tears because it's long and drawn out. Instead, it's going to keep you richly involved by transitioning into different subsections. There's going to be a thunderous guitar solo right around the midway point. In fact, it's a little bit after it, right around the 9:30 mark of the 17-minute long affair. There's going to be absolutely fantastic soprano vocals that are just going to, if you're a big fan of female vocals, it's going to draw you right in. You're going to fall in love with this. And then whenever you hear the crescendo at the end, whenever you hear all of the vocalists in unison as one singing the final words of this chorus, it is something that truly leaves you marveled. It leaves you changed. It's a very good track. It's not something that I'm going to say is potentially Song of the Year caliber, but damn it if they did not give it their 100% go big or go home best motherfucking effort. Man, you go into an album thinking it's going to be business as usual, and you get pleasantly surprised. It's not necessarily that the whole album does that, but that 17-minute long track at the end is really a game changer. I'm going to tell you that right now, folks. Without that track, this is probably a solid 7 or 7.5, but with that track, it elevates it to an 8.5. This is a great album whenever you consider what is really awaiting you at the end. I'm not saying the other songs are any slouches, let me tell you that, because it's definitely something where you're getting exactly what you're expecting, and they're doing a little bit more, a little bit extra to kind of reel you in. I'm just saying that whenever you listen to that final track, it just makes you forget about the rest of the album, because it is the center point. It is the part that you remember the most. It is the centerpiece. It is the turkey dinner to your Thanksgiving. And damn, it's one of those songs that just bears listening to again and again. Ladies and gentlemen, while many people are going to be focused on time, considering it is finally going to happen, considering 6 years now have passed, and we are finally going to get the album that we have wanted for 6 years. In fact, we're going to get 2. Unsung Heroes by Ensiferum should not be overlooked. This is certainly an album to check out. It's certainly one that demands your attention and deserves your attention, so whenever it is released, whether it be this coming Tuesday at your local record store, or if you have to wait a week, whatever you must do, even if you must order it online, it's something that I do recommend doing, even though I myself work in a physical music store. Whatever you must do to check out this record in order to really take in the beauty of the final track, I recommend that you do it. Because it's certainly worth the journey. It's certainly worth the 17 minutes of your time. And it's just certainly worth the exploration. I highly recommend it. And I think that you guys are really going to enjoy it. Thank you.